You play by the rules. You are fair, considerate, and you put others first. Yet, you watch as the less scrupulous claim the promotions, the opportunities, and the power. Your kindness feels like a weakness, and your integrity like a trap. This isn't paranoia. It's a structural flaw in the game of life. Over 500 years ago, a political realist named Niccolò Machiavelli exposed why virtue is so often a losing strategy in competitive environments. He didn't write this to make you cynical, but to make you see. The world does not reward goodness. It rewards effectiveness. Let's dismantle the fairy tale and confront the brutal, liberating truth about why playing nice sets you up for defeat. A Machiavellian perspective reveals a simple, harsh equation. Every moral constraint you accept is a strategic option you surrender. While you are wrestling with whether an action is right, your competitor is only asking if it is effective. They operate with a larger toolkit. Your conscience acts as a governor on your own engine of ambition. Machiavelli understood that in contests for limited resources, the player who imposes the fewest limits on their own conduct holds a profound, often decisive, advantage. Your morality isn't just a choice. It's a handicap in a game where not everyone is keeping score the same way. Nice people are predictable. Their desire to avoid conflict, uphold promises, and maintain harmony makes their behavior easier to anticipate and manipulate. A Machiavellian operator uses this predictability against them. They know you will likely turn the other cheek, honor an unfair agreement, or prioritize peace over profit. This allows them to plan aggressive moves with a high degree of safety, calculating that your niceness will prevent a devastating counterattack. Your virtue, in this light, becomes a vulnerability they can map, exploit, and incorporate into their own strategy for your defeat. Nice people operate on an implied contract of reciprocity, that good deeds will be returned and fairness will prevail. Machiavelli's work shatters this faith. He observed that people are far more focused on their own immediate needs and fears than on returning favors. Your kindness is often registered not as a debt, but as a trait, a sign that you can be counted on to give more. The Machiavellian approach treats every interaction as a standalone transaction. They take your kindness as a granted advantage, not an IOU, freeing them to act in their own interest without the burden of sentimental payback. Empathy is an emotional and cognitive tax. When you are deeply considering the feelings and positions of others, you are spending psychic capital. A Machiavellian competitor, by strategically limiting this empathy, conserves that energy for pure strategy and execution. While you are drained by the emotional labor of managing team morale or sparing feelings, they are focused solely on the objective. Machiavelli would see your empathy not as a noble quality, but as a resource leak, a continuous expenditure that weakens your strategic position in a long-term conflict where stamina is key. Machiavelli argued that being loved is optional, but being feared for your resolve is often essential. Nice people failed to cultivate this healthy, respectful fear. They shy away from delivering difficult consequences, fearing being disliked. This creates a power vacuum. Subordinates or rivals learn there is no real cost for disrespect, poor performance, or encroachment. A Machiavellian operator understands that a reputation for firm, decisive reaction to challenges is what secures boundaries and commands efficiency. Your aversion to causing any fear ultimately makes you a safe target for encroachment, ensuring you lose ground by inches. Honesty is a rigid policy. In complex negotiations or conflicts, total transparency gives your opponent your entire playbook. The Machiavellian approach values strategic deception, the selective withholding or shaping of truth to gain an advantage. They ask, what does this person need to believe for my goal to succeed? While you are sharing your true constraints and desires, they are presenting a tailored reality. Your commitment to niceness, interpreted as blunt honesty, disarms you in an arena where information is the primary weapon. You lose because you brought a transparency pamphlet to an information war. Nice people often become process-oriented, believing that doing things the right way is itself a victory. Machiavelli was ruthlessly outcome-oriented. He taught that the end ultimately justifies the means in the realm of power and survival. When you are focused on the purity of your methods, you can lose sight of the result. A Machiavellian competitor has no such piety. They will shortcut, reinterpret, or pressure the process to secure the win. Your reverence for the rules becomes a harness they are not wearing, allowing them to reach the finish line while you are still ensuring your shoelaces are tied correctly. In the Machiavellian view, credit is not given, it is taken. Success is a narrative, and nice people often wait politely for recognition, or worse, diffuse credit to be humble. This is a catastrophic error. The Machiavellian operator immediately and publicly associates themselves with any success, shaping the story before others can. They understand that perception solidifies into reality. By failing to aggressively claim your victories, you allow the narrative to be written by others, often those who contributed less. You lose the rewards of your work because you were too nice to loudly own your own achievements. A core Machiavellian principle is to look beneath the surface of words and gestures to the engine of self-interest. Nice people tend to take appearances at face value, trusting declarations of goodwill and shared purpose. This makes them susceptible to flattery and false alliances. The Machiavellian operator sees these displays as tools. They offer camaraderie while covertly advancing their own agenda, exploiting the nice person's trust as a cloak for their maneuvers. Your tendency to believe in good faith leaves you vulnerable to those who treat relationships as tactical, ensuring you are the last to realize you are being played. The desire to be liked by everyone is a strategic prison. It forces you into constant compromise, watering down your stance to avoid any offense. Machiavelli understood that decisive leadership and tough choices inherently create opponents. The Machiavellian approach accepts, even expects, a faction of detractors. By being freed from the need for universal approval, they can make bold, clear decisions that advance their goals. Your niceness, driven by a need for universal liking, leads to paralyzed, middle-of-the-road positions that please no one and advance nothing, guaranteeing you lose to more decisive actors. Nice people view alliances as friendships, built on loyalty and mutual affection. The Machiavellian sees them as temporary mergers of interest. They are quick to form a pact when goals align, and equally quick to dissolve or betray it when those interests diverge. This fluid, unsentimental approach allows them to maximize utility from every connection. You, however, may maintain a loyal alliance long after it has ceased to serve your interests, or fail to form a necessary one with an unsavory partner due to personal dislike. Your emotional approach to alliances leaves you with fewer, less effective tools. Machiavelli famously advised to injure decisively if you must, or not at all. Nice people wait for an overt, undeniable threat before acting, often until it is too late. The Machiavellian mindset is preemptive. It neutralizes potential rivals at the first sign of ambition, often through subtle, non-confrontational means like marginalization or disinformation. Your reluctance to act until you are justified allows threats to grow in the shadows. You lose because you fight the battle only when the enemy chooses the time and place, having already gained significant ground while you were being fair-minded. In any conflict, the winner is often the one who controls the story. Nice people, focused on actions over rhetoric, often neglect this battlefield. They assume their good deeds will speak for themselves. A Machiavellian strategist knows deeds are mute without a narrator. They actively shape perception, framing their actions as necessary and yours as problematic. While you are busy being right, they are busy proving you are wrong in the court of public opinion. You lose the larger war for support because you forfeited the most powerful weapon, the narrative. Believing facts were enough. An insistence on fair play can be a subtle form of self-sabotage. It provides a noble excuse for failure. I lost, but I played fair. This allows you to avoid the harder truth, that you were outmatched strategically. The Machiavellian approach has no such comforting crutch. It focuses solely on cause and effect. If a tactic works, it is fair, within the rules of real-world engagement. Your commitment to an abstract sportsmanship code can blind you to the actual rules of the game being played, which are often won by any effective means. You lose, but with a clean conscience, which is cold, comfort. Nice people often have a black and white moral worldview, refusing to collaborate with those they deem unethical. The Machiavellian operator sees talent and utility, not saints and sinners. They will readily form a pact of convenience with a brilliant but ruthless individual to achieve a shared objective. This gives them access to a wider pool of skills and tactics. Your principled refusal to work with certain effective people shrinks your available resources. You lose potential force multipliers because your morality prohibits you from leveraging the strengths of those you dislike. This is the ultimate tragic error. In the competitive arena, consistent kindness is rarely interpreted as strength. It is read as an absence of the capacity for ruthlessness, which is interpreted as weakness. Machiavelli knew that a reputation for strength, even ferocity, deters challenges. Your kindness broadcasts the opposite. inviting tests of your boundaries. The Machiavellian competitor sees your pleasant demeanor not as virtue, but as an open invitation to push, to take, and to dominate, because they perceive no cost for doing so. You lose because your primary signal is misinterpreted as a green light for your own exploitation. Here's the final Machiavellian twist. Niceness itself can be weaponized, but not by the genuinely nice person. A strategic operator will use calculated kindness as a tool for disarming foes, extracting information, or lowering defenses. Their niceness is a temporary tactic, a mask worn for a specific effect. The genuinely nice person, however, wears it as their identity, unaware it can be a disguise. This means the nice person is playing their core strategy on the surface, while the Machiavellian can mimic it at will as part of a deeper game. You are showing your hand, while they are holding cards you didn't know were in the deck. Machiavelli's brutal truth is not a demand to abandon decency, but a call to integrate strength. The solution is not to become ruthless, but to become whole. This means developing the capacity for strategic thought, clear boundaries, and decisive action, while retaining your core humanity. It is about adding tools to your toolkit, not swapping one identity for another. Learn to project resoluteness, master narrative, and act preemptively when necessary, all from a center of your own chosen values. The goal is not to stop being nice, but to stop being only nice. Lose the naivete, keep the integrity, and forge a character that can be kind by choice, not weak by default. Machiavelli's brutal truth is not that you must become a monster to win, but that unintegrated virtue is a blueprint for defeat. The world's competitive arena is reward, not the pure of heart, but the effective of action. Nice people lose because they prioritize moral comfort over strategic reality, process over outcome, and universal approval over decisive victory. The path forward is not cynicism, but completion. It requires integrating the strategic clarity of the Machiavellian mindset, the understanding of power, perception, and preemption with your inherent decency. Stop bringing only kindness to a conflict that demands discernment. Stop bringing only fairness to a game that rewards foresight. Build a character that can be kind without being predictable, and principled without being powerless. True strength lies not in choosing between being good or being effective, but in mastering the difficult art of being both.